A variable name can start with alphabet or underscore. Whenever I want to represent memory location, then with the help of variable, I can able to represent the memory location. What is reserved words? Here reserved words are nothing but the keywords. Hello to all, a warm welcome to my new session on Introduction to .NET Programming. I'm Revati, faculty from the Department of Computer Science, Vidhyaashram, First Grade College, the Temple of Excellence, MYSURU. So dear student, before going to start my today's session, let me to recall the topic which I have covered in my last session. So dear student, in my last session, I started with mathematical functions. Under mathematical function, I have discussed min function, math function, absolute function, power function as well as square root function. Along with that, I have covered literals in C#. So, what are the literals we discussed there? That is integer, constant, floating point, constant, character constant as well as string constant. So, here literals are nothing but the constant values. Along with that, I have discussed C# data types. So, this C# programming language supports three kind of data types, that is value type, reference type as well as pointer type. Along with that, I have covered symbols used in pointer. So these are the certain topic I have discussed in my last session. But in my today's session, I'm going to deal with C# variables. Along with that, I'm going to deal with rules for defining variables. Along with that, I'm going to deal with scope of the variables. Along with that, I'm going to deal with boxing and unboxing. So dear student, from the examination point of view, this topic, that is boxing and unboxings, are very important topic. Now the topic of the day here is C# variable. So dear student, I hope all are familiar with the word variable. What is variable? I hope you studied C program, C++ program, along with that Java program. So all these programs, you may encounter this word, that is variable. So variable means what? Name given to the memory location. So dear student, if I have computer memory, in that if I want to specify name to this memory location, then I'm going to define the variable. And how I'm going to define the variable? That is, first I want to write the value type. So here value type is nothing but basic data types. And example for basic data types are integer, floating point, double, character, string and etc. So here int is my value type, and if I write a equal to 10, then this indicates that this is the address. So this a is always going to represent memory address, and in that particular address I'm going to store 10. Now a variable is a name of memory location. Suppose if I want to specify name of any memory location, then I can go with variable. With the help of variable declaration, I can able to specify the name of memory location. And it is used to store the data. So here this variable is mainly used to store the data and its value can be changed. So dear student, if I consider this example, this is constant variable declaration. That means I'm going to assign the value at the beginning itself. Now, if I write int a, now I can able to change the value randomly. So its value can be changed and it can be reused many times. That means I can able to use this variable many times in my program according to the program requirement. It is a way to represent memory location. So dear student, whenever I want to represent memory location, then with the help of variable, I can able to represent the memory location. So if I write char ch and if I consider the memory location, this character is of type 1 byte and 1 byte is reserved for this character variable ch. So here this ch is always used to represent memory address. Now dear student, I have certain variable declaration along with value types. So the basic variable type available in C hash. Dear student, before that, let me to write the syntax here. How to write syntax? First, always my value type. Value type or this is nothing but data type. Then I'm going to specify the variable name. Then I'm going to write the variable name. And what are the value type I can have? That is decimal type. So dear student, if I want to represent decimal number, then I can go with decimal type. And if I want to use true and false, then I can go with Boolean data type. So dear student, if I want to represent only integer type, then I can go with integral types. And the example for integral types are int, character, byte, short, long, etc. Along with that, I have floating point type, that is float and double. And to represent null type, I am going to have nullable type. So it is nothing but nullable data types. So these are the certain basic variable types. Now I have rules for defining variables. So dear student, till now we discussed what is variable, along with that the different variable types. But now I am going to discuss rules for defining variables. So dear student, while defining variables, I have to follow certain rules. In that first one, a variable can have alphabet, digits and underscore. That means while writing valid variable name, I have to use alphabet, that is uppercase or lowercase. Along with that, I can able to use digit and underscore. So a variable name can start with alphabet or underscore. So let me to write the example here. I can write int number. So my variable name starts with character or alphabet. If I write int underscore number 1, this is also valid variable declaration. Suppose if I write int 9 number, then it is invalid variable declaration. So dear student, while defining variables, the variable name can start with the alphabet along with underscore, but I cannot able to use digit. The next rule here is no white space. That means I cannot able to write num1. So this is wrong variable declaration. Instead of that, I can able to write number and 1. So this is the correct variable declaration. A variable name must not be any reserved words. So what is reserved words? Here reserved words are nothing but the keywords. So here keywords are the predefined words, and I cannot able to use predefined words as my variable name. For example, I cannot able to use for, I cannot use case, if, int. So these are not my variable names. That means I cannot able to use reserved words as my key, as my variable. So this is all about defining variables. That means these are the certain rules I want to follow while defining variables. Now I have what is a constant variables. So what is constant variable? For example, in my hand, if I have 10 rupees, so that is constant. That means the rupees or the currency 10 rupees does not change. So here a variable whose value cannot be changed. For example, if I write int n equal to 5 and the value which is assigned to this n, that is 5, does not change. So these are the fixed value. So the fixed values are itself called constant values. So a variable whose value not be changed during the execution of the program. So here the variables whose value does not change during the execution of the program is called constant variables. So here the value 5 does not change during the execution of the program. So there are two types of constant, that is compile time constant, and it's also known by the word const. And another type I have here is runtime constant, and it's called read only. So dear student, the constants are classified into two types. One is runtime and another one is compile time. Now dear student, let's discuss the type of constant one by one. So at the beginning, I have compile time constant. So the compile time constants are declared by using the keyword const. So dear student, if I want to define compile type constant, then I'm going to use the keyword const. So at the beginning itself, I'm going to define its constant variable, and the example here is integer is my data type, and I'm going to use the word called const to indicate it is compile time constant, and I'm going to assign the value. So here compile time constants are declared by using the keyword const, in which value cannot be changed. That means the value which I'm going to assign, that cannot be changed during the execution of the program. So dear student, at the middle of my program, if I write A++, then the value which is stored in A does not change. So it remains constant throughout the program, even though during the execution of the program we cannot able to change constant value. That is nothing but compile time constant. To define compile time constant, I'm going to use the keyword const. So this is my second example. So this is my third example. So dear student, first one, it is correct. Second one, it is correct. Now, dear student, let me to consider second type of constant, that is runtime constant. So, this runtime constant is also called by the name read only. That means I can able to read only, then I cannot able to modify. The runtime constants are declared by using the keyword read only. So dear student, please make a note here that whenever I want to define runtime constant, then I'm going to follow the keyword read only, where the value cannot be changed during the execution of the program. Even though if I use read only, still I cannot able to change the values during the execution of the program. And these are the example. So here I have read only or runtime constant, and I'm going to write int read only. So read only means what? It is runtime constant, and I'm going to assign the value. These are the two different types of constants which is supported by the C# programming. Now I have scope of the variable. So dear student, still now we discussed how to define the variable and what are the different kinds of variable. Now let me to discuss the scope or lifetime of the variable. So dear student, a variable can be defined in a class, inside the method, or inside the loop. That means I can able to use variables in my program, and in my program where I can able to use the variables in my class, in my method, and in my looping construct. So dear student, there are three type of variables supported by the C# programming, that is class level scope, method level scope, and block level scope. So dear student, from the examination point of this topic is very important. Now let's discuss the scope of the variables one by one. So at the beginning I have class level scope. That means I'm going to define the variables within the class. That means if I write class A and if I write int number, then I can able to use this variable named number within the class. And this kind of variables are known as class level variables. Declaring the variables in a class but outside any method can be directly accessed anywhere in the class. That means, dear student, if I define the variable in the class or outside the method. So, in my class, if I have the method called mul, okay, then I can able to use this class variable. So, declaring the variables in a class, that means I'm going to declare the variable within the class but outside. So, this variable is outside the method that can be directly accessed anywhere in the class. That means I can able to access this variable number within the class, even within the function mul. These variables are also termed as the field or class member. So, dear student, this kind of variable declaration is known as field members or class member. So, I can able to call this variable as field or class member. Class level scoped variable can be accessed by the non-static method of the class in which it is declared. That means the class level variables can be accessed by the non-static method. Now, access modifier of class level variable does not affect the scope within a class. That means if I consider access modifier. So, what are the access modifier I can able to have? That is public, default, private, protected, etc. So, access modifier of class level variable does not affect their scope within the class. Member variables can also be accessed outside the class by using access modifier. That means this variable which is declared within the class can be accessed outside the class by using access modifier. Now, I have my second type, that is method level scope. So, dear student, let me to write the example here. I have class, and what is the class name? It is example 2. Now, within this class, I'll create the method called display. I'll create the method called display, and within this method, I'm going to write the, or I'm going to declare the variable. And what is my variable name? That is n. So, variables that are declared inside a method. So, dear student, what is the method name here? That is display. Within this method, if I write or if I create variable, then that is known as method level variable. These are not accessible outside the method. That means I have defined the variable within this method and I cannot able to use or access these variable outside the method. So I cannot able to access these variables outside the method. These variables can be accessed by the nested code block inside the method. That means I can able to use these variables only within the display function with multiple nested blocks. These variables are termed as local variable. That means the scope of the variable n is within the function or within the method called display. That means I can able to use this local variable n within this display function. Now I have my last type of variable that is known as block level variable. So dear student, let me to write the example here. So dear student, I have the class called example 3. Inside that, I have created the method called read. Okay, inside that, I have certain block. Okay, and inside that block, if I use the variables, then it is called block level variables. So these variables are generally declared inside the for loop or while statement. That means inside read function, I'm going to have the for loop or while loop, and whatever the variable I'm going to use in my for loop or in my while loop or in my do while loop, then it is called block level variable. So these variables are also termed as the loop variable. So dear student, just remember here that method variables are always local variable and block level variables are always looping variable or loop variable. Generally, a loop inside a method has 3 levels. That means if I consider looping, inside that I can have class level variable, I can have method level variable, even I can have loop variable. So dear student, there are 3 type of variable: class variable, method variable and block variable. And from the examination point of view, this topic is very, very important. So dear student, along with this topic, I have another topic called boxing and unboxing. Before that, let me to explain what is boxing. So dear student, I hope all are familiar with the word typecasting. So what is typecasting? Converting one data type to another data type. And we studied implicit and explicit typecasting in C, C++ as well as Java. But if I consider .NET programming, here the typecasting itself known as boxing. So what is boxing? Boxing is nothing but the process of converting a value type to the object type. So dear student, if I consider C++ programming language, then boxing plays very, very important role. And we have 3 type of data types, that is value type. So here value types are nothing but the basic data types. Along with that, we have reference type. Along with that, we have pointer type. Now, Boxing is nothing but the process of converting value type. So what is value type? The example for value types are nothing but int, float, double, long, and so on. Okay, converting all the primitive or basic data type to object type. So here object is nothing but reference type. Reference type. So dear student, here object is always nothing but reference type. That is converting basic data type to object type is known as boxing, and it is done implicitly. So boxing is implicitly done. The example here, first I want to define value type. So I want to define value type. So integer is my value type. Here I is my variable and I'm going to assign the value 10. Now I'm going to convert this I to object type. So I'm going to convert this I to object type is known as boxing. So dear student, value type is nothing but the basic data type, and here reference type is nothing but object type. So I'm going to convert the basic data type to object type is known as boxing. Now I have another type, that is unboxing. So unboxing is the reverse process of boxing. So dear student, if I consider boxing, I'm going to convert value type to reference. But there are certain times I want to convert reference type to value type, then I can able to use unboxing. So here unboxing is the process, or it is just reverse process of boxing. It is the process of converting reference, that's nothing but object type, to value type. Now unboxing, extract the value from the reference type and assign to its value type. That means by using unboxing, we are going to extract the object type and we are going to assign the object type to value type, and this is carried out explicitly. So we are going to convert the type. It's nothing but the typecasting, converting one data type to another data type. So here I have reference. Reference means what? It's always object. So I'm going to have the object data type. Now I'm going to convert this object data type to integer. So I'm going to write the type. So I'm going to convert object or reference type to value type, and it is known as unboxing. So dear student, what is boxing? Converting value type to reference type. For example, I have two type of memory. One is heap memory and one is stack memory. So dear student, this stack memory is responsible for storing value or primitive or basic data types. Now, if I consider heap memory, then this memory is responsible for storing object or reference type. So this is nothing but the boxing. So converting value type to reference type. If I consider unboxing, then converting reference type to value type is known as unboxing. So dear student, from the examination point of view, this boxing and unboxing topics are very important. Anyway, dear student, in my today's session, I started with how to declare variables, what are the rules I need to follow while declaring variables. Along with that, I have discussed different levels of variables, that is class level variable, method, as well as block level variable. Along with that, I have discussed boxing and unboxing. But in my next session, I'm going to deal with C hash operator. Along with that, I'm going to deal with decision making in C hash. In that, I'm going to deal with C hash if statement, and I'm going to deal with C hash if else statement. So these are the certain topic I'm going to deal in my next session. So dear student, don't forget to watch my session, because in my next session, once again, I'm going to deal with introduction about .NET programming. Until that, keep watching and keep learning. Thank you.